Hey friend, welcome to Authentic Performance, the podcast. My name is Nat and I'm your host. At Authentic Performance, our mission is to provide education and advocacy for all athletes, developing awareness surrounding identity, purpose, and health, so athletes can live well beyond their sport. This week we have two incredible guests. They are friends, roommates, and pickleball partners for Grand Canyon University's club team, Pastrell and Isaiah Mulder. We had a fun in-person conversation about being a Christian in sports and protecting our hearts from idolatry within athletics. Both Parker and Isaiah have some really great input to share with you, so let's hear from them now. All right, Parker and Isaiah, welcome to the podcast. To start, you want to just tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Parker Pastrell. I'm from Grants Pass, Oregon, small town, about 35,000 people. Got two siblings, two younger sisters. One is now in college with me here at GCU. The other one is in high school. I've been involved in sports really all my life. When I was younger, I tried a few different ones out. I played baseball, basketball, soccer, ended up sticking with soccer, and then played that through high school. And now in college, I played pickleball for the club team and really enjoyed that. Yeah.
What's your major career plans?
Yes, I'm a finance major, and I also have a minor in biblical studies. And so what I think I want to do is be like a financial advisors for like individuals or families, kind of help them plan just for their future so that they can get to a place where they can, either retire early or retire in a place where they don't have to worry about money so much and kind of take that burden of like planning and having to worry about their finances off their shoulders and letting someone who has some experience and can help them kind of navigate that.
Sweet.
I'm Isaiah Mulder. I'm from South Dakota, which I don't feel like I know a lot of people here from South Dakota, but I love South Dakota. It was a great place to grow up. I have an older brother and a younger brother, and we were, in a healthy way, I would say, competitive growing up. So competition, if not sports, has always been around, and sports, especially into later elementary, middle, and high school, just became a regular thing. And in South Dakota, especially in the winters, you can't go outside, so it's basketball indoors or something. So sports have always been a part of my life, and I played basketball, baseball, and golf all the way through high school, and then kind of picked up pickleball towards the end of high school and found out GCU with a club team. So here we are. I'm studying psychology. I have a minor in spiritual formation, and so the goal is just mission work. I don't know in what capacity necessarily, but I like the idea of being part of a nonprofit that works overseas, so kind of looking to fulfill a physical need, and then while I'm there, fulfill the spiritual need.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, pickleball is like on the up and coming everywhere. I feel like everyone's playing pickleball now, but that's so fun to play competitively. So how did you guys meet? And you're roommates now and then friends. So how did you guys meet and start living together and everything?
Yeah, we really just met through pickleball, really. That's like the first time I met him. The first semester, joined the club, and just got to meet a lot of people on the team. And I don't know when we exactly started to become partners, but it was probably midway through the semester towards the end when we actually had some like tournaments and different games. And we just, from my perspective, just like playing with each other. We really liked just our games, how they meshed well together. And so that's really how we met.
Yeah. Sweet. So you touched on it a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about your experiences in sport, like high school, college, like maybe why you decided to play or how competitive you were, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I would say like really started playing soccer when I was 5 years old. And I think my parents just put me in because they were like, you're doing a sport. This is what we're going to be doing. Like, got to get active. And so started off with that and then tried a few other things. I was at a small private school, and so played basketball for them, ran track 1 year, and kind of just testing things out. I played baseball and didn't really like the aspects of some sports like baseball. I was kind of afraid of getting hit with the ball. Like basketball was fun. The team I was on was really bad, and so we just like never won a game, and that was discouraging. And so I really just took off with soccer. Continued that through middle school, through high school. Played multiple seasons, like a year. So we'd have like our normal season, and then have like a winter kind of club. And so played that all the way through high school, and even then in high school, it's when I really, I'd say, like got competitive for the people I was around me. I really just played sports to have fun and stuff. But in high school, it got really competitive, and that was kind of a top down pressure. I felt a little bit, and so we, to some extent, like had to play the other seasons. Like we kind of turned into a year round kind of ordeal, and I like to be competitive, but it became a little too competitive for me, I'd say. And so it took a little bit of the fun out of it. And by the time I graduated, like I was pretty done with soccer. And so like now in college, I just pick the fun. So I'll do like, your intramurals, just pick up games here and there. And that's kind of where I'm at with that. But with pickleball, I like to be competitive, but I also just like to have fun and go out, hit the ball and just enjoy the company and the people that are around me.
Yeah.
My medical history as a kid was kind of messy, and so when I was like 5, it was on the back end of some of that medical stuff, and sports at that point kind of became a coping mechanism for me. It's a great way to nobody cares about what happened in the past when you're playing sport. You're just a kid playing sport, so it kind of became a good way for me to just get back into normal childhood things. And then I also just kind of fell in love with them, and so kept going with picked up baseball a little bit later, but basketball and golf especially, I just really enjoyed, and then any other kind of game or competition. And so kind of fell in love with those, kept progressing into high school, fairly similar where, especially in the basketball realm, got competitive in a pretty healthy way. I also went to a Christian school, so they kept, I think the right intentions there, but basketball, it's not like there's nobody in South Dakota, so it's competitive.
Yeah.
But it was still a fun experience. It was a good time. But yeah, kind of towards the end of high school, I kind of felt ready to just readdress sports in a way that can keep it competitive, but more so just fun, more so keeping it in perspective of like the grand scheme of life. This is a game, and it's great that it's a game. It's great that we get to play it, but you gotta keep it, where it needs to be. So I think pickleball it was something I hadn't done for very long, so I didn't feel pressure to like be amazing at it. It was a new thing to try to get better at. I felt like there was good community on the team here to play with and joke with and then go do the rest of life with, and so that makes it better. And then it's also just a great ministry opportunity. You spend a decent amount of time with the people you play with. There's a decent amount of opportunities to talk and just be friends. So I think it struck a nice balance.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, after you play a lot of competitive sports, even if it's just high school, not even in college, it's like you hit a point where it's maybe burnout or just kind of done with like that aspect of it. But it's cool that there's other ways you can still be active or involved and stuff without it having to be so competitive. So has your view of sports and exercise changed as you kind of talk like competitive and recreational? Like how do you approach your sport now with that experience of being so competitive? Like how do you do it just for fun?
Yeah, I would say for me, like the way I get competitive is, especially in sports, and I think a lot of other things, but I like to be the best at whatever I'm doing. And so some of the sports I've done them because I was like good at them or better than other people at them. And so now I think the biggest thing I just need to be like aware of and be careful of is like if I'm like not as good at a certain sport and like I'm in a group of friends who want to play that sport and I'm not succeeding as well as I want to be, like that can kind of impact like my emotions and just the way like my mindset towards like enjoying the sport. Like it kind of takes away the joy sometimes when I get too competitive and I'm like, oh, I should be like beat these people or something, But I'd say I'm definitely a little bit less competitive now. Like in sports now, I just kind of want to go out, have fun, get some exercise, and just enjoy the people. I think that's the biggest thing now or with sports.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's intentionality. It takes a mindset shift. Maybe on like a tournament day, I'm going to turn up the competitiveness a little bit, dial in a little bit. But yeah, for a practice that comes at a time when we're not preparing for a tournament. It's just a practice. It's just an opportunity to go play. And yeah, like if we get a game with people who are just really good players, maybe we'll try a little bit harder. But I don't see any purpose in like having this cutthroat mentality all the time, and especially on campus with groups of friends. If you all have a mutual understanding of how to be competitive in a healthy way, okay. But I just think, it's in general a better approach to just go at it for fun, go at it to enjoy some community building, I guess.
Yeah. So, like in your example, like pickleball is kind of more of still competitive, but more for fun now. For other people who maybe played competitive sports in high school or even in college, what is kind of your advice if someone's looking to add a challenge to their life? So whether that's trying a new sport or like trying to find a new community, what advice do you have for someone who's kind of seeking out something like that? Whether it be pickleball, whether it be like running, like anything in that kind of active area where you can find community, what's your advice?
I would say like just like going into it with like what are your kind of like your motives behind what you're doing? Like, are you going into it just to like you want to just win, you want to beat everyone, you want to be the best? Like that's one way to go about it. And I think a healthy mindset going into it is if you're looking for like that community, you're going in like, yes, I want to be competitive. I want to like have competitive games. I want to make it a challenge. So first seeking out those people who are like skilled and who all you want to seek out people who also want to like get good and like be competitive. Because if you're playing with the people who are not as competitive, like it's just not. You're gonna have like different goals and different motives behind why you want to play, and that can kind of lead to some like tension and kind of difficulty when you're playing. And so just going into it and trying to seek out the people who do want to be competitive versus those who just want to be there for fun and for the relationships that come along with it.
Yeah.
I would add to that too. I really encourage people to try new things. I think it's just very wise to learn to humble yourself and learn to be in an environment where you're not good, you don't know what's going on, you acknowledge there are people far better than me at this. For one thing, just because I think it's just healthy to be in those spaces and to learn those things, but also when you then return to areas where you are a little bit more skilled, I think it helps you improve how you help other people who are below you and how you understand the game because you've experienced spaces where you're really good and also you're just beginning. And sometimes when we do sports for so long, we forget what it feels like to be just beginning.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You have a little more perspective of what newer people might feel like. And like truthfully, you can't really like grow if you're not uncomfortable in things, which I think a lot of people are afraid to try new stuff because they don't want to be awkward or not good. But like when you are uncomfortable, that's when you grow in all kinds of different ways. So now pickleball, I know it's a club sport, but it's still a time commitment. So how do you balance that with all the other responsibilities that you have at college?
Yeah, I'd say for me, like I really just have to figure out what my priorities are in college, and the main reason why I'm here is to like get an education, and so that is top of the list for me. And so like when it comes to pickleball, like knowing when it's okay to say no, or like the pickleball for at least for me, like a lot of people play many times a week. Like there's only 2 practices that are scheduled, and that's good for me. Like being okay with just playing a few times is totally all right. If you are wanting to be competitive and like get a lot better, like you can play more. So it's just being able to like know when to say yes. Like I can go play tonight and be fine. Whether that's with homework, with relationships, or balancing all those things. It's just like it's another thing to balance, and so you have to know when to say yes and when you can say no. Being okay with that.
Yeah, I agree. I would echo that. I think understanding your priority list is going to help if you really do want to get better. Yeah, it is more of a time commitment, but if you're okay just playing totally for fun, then just show up to 2 practices a week or 1 practice a week. And I'd say we're both kind of in the middle where we want to get better. So to a certain degree, we'll make an effort to show up. We'll make an effort to get better, but it's certainly not the way top of our priority list.
Yeah. So now moving into a little different topic. a lot of people on the podcast are believers. I'm a believer, so I mean, I know more people and connect with people that are in some of those same spaces. So, do you guys want to just share a little bit of your walk with Christ, testimony, whatever feels comfortable?
Yeah, so I grew up in a just Christian home. Both parents, that's kind of the values that they instilled in me and my siblings, and so I'm very appreciative of that, just to be in that atmosphere, and still in today. And so one of the biggest, just like a life events that happened for me was when I was about third grade. My parents got divorced, and that I was just really confused, what was going on first, and so didn't really know what was going on, like why things were happening, why my whole life was changing, and so there was just a lot of uncertainty, and I definitely like questioned a lot of things, questioned God too. I just like, why did it happen to like my family, or like, is this something that I did wrong? And so there was kind of just a lot of those questions and doubt, maybe some doubt in God as well. And so kind of moving through that and kind of getting to the other side where I am now, or being able to look back and just see how God had worked through that. Like, kind of a little more about my family. Just big like blended family now, so I have used to have siblings, like a stepdad, and so there's just a lot more moving parts. And so learning that, one, my parents weren't perfect, knowing that like that God is my heavenly Father, is perfect, and kind of trying to reconcile like my earthly parents weren't perfect, but God is a perfect Father. He's a perfect parent, and He wants the best for you. And so, guys, just seeing how like God worked through that, and just like the good that came out of a bad situation, has really just played a big part in who I am, like, and just the characteristics that God has encouraged me to develop, whether that be patience, whether that being humility, just so many different things. Like having a lot of siblings, you have to be patient. You have to sacrifice yourself and like the things you want in the immediate like future. And so that was probably the biggest thing. And then kind of going through high school, middle school, which is just with that background and being able to now relate to other people has been just a cool like opportunity to talk and minister to those around me. And I would say like coming into college, I really have kind of final or solidified like this is my own faith now, and like I'm taking it seriously. Like I want to get into the Word for myself. I want to take prayer seriously and talk to God about really what's going on in my life, and just be able to share that with those around me. So.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say like the doubt, because I know that's a lot of like my story too. With like when something happens, our first thing is like why. I don't understand why, but like as I kind of worked through that, I realized that like in that time, like God was still totally listening and like wanted to hear my frustration and like just fully how I was feeling, and then like we were able to like work through it together, and it like that's why it's supposed to be a relationship. Like, okay, God, like I would just, when I'm praying, I'm like, all right, God, I'm not really happy today. Like, I want to go through like what is going on, but then you're able to like get deeper in that relationship too, which I think is cool. Where like it doesn't even have to be this like super traumatic event or anything that's massive in your life, but anytime it's like this doesn't make sense, it just really gives us like a better place to turn to. And like that was kind of where I was too. Like, okay, I can't do this on my own. I don't know what's going on. I can't process it. So like I have to now like rely on the Lord to kind of guide me through that. So
Yeah, it's been really cool just to see God's faithfulness through it all, through my doubt and my unfaithfulness, and just to see how God is just so different from like my initial reactions. And so
for sure.
My story, like I mentioned earlier, is mostly revolved around medical things. When I was 4, I was diagnosed with a rare bone marrow disorder. So I spent 8 months receiving a bone marrow transplant, so chemotherapy, and then a couple months in the hospital leading up to the bone marrow transplant in December of 2008. And then a bone marrow transplant is the second longest recovery time of any transplant after a lung transplant. So a lot of just therapies and medicines and stuff for a while. I had the transplant in Minneapolis, which is 4 hours away from where I live. So as a 4-year-old, that's a tough move, it's a tough transition. But by God's grace, like that worked the first time. Those transplants don't always take, your body doesn't always receive them well, but mine did, which was a blessing. And so I got to come back home, kind of finish the rehab at home, and then just start to wiggle my way back into school and friendships and childhood life. Kind of just went on. It was just a part of my life. I didn't really think much of it, as a first, second, third grader. And then when I was 11, I was diagnosed with a genetic heart condition, which threatened to take me out of sports and out of a lot of things. There's a lot of gray around it. Didn't really know what was going to happen. And I wasn't mad at God. I also grew up, in the church. My parents were both believers. And so I had an understanding in a limited sense of his authority and his supremacy. But I certainly was confused how a God of love and grace and mercy could be doing these things and seemingly taking so much from my life and just messing things up. And I didn't see anyone else going through this. And so I was really confused. And after that heart condition diagnosis, I kind of decided it's time to get in or get out. I can't keep riding the coattails of my parents' faith. So I'm going to go all in. I'm going to give this an honest, fair shot. And if God doesn't show up, then that's kind of that, I suppose. So I did. I took prayer seriously. I looked into the Word seriously. I started paying attention in church a little bit more and just fell in love with Jesus. Never really looked back, I guess. He kind of proved his authority over my life. And really what I came to accept was my own rebellion. I was not a rebellious kid. I was so okay following rules, had no desire to do anything wrong. And so to me, it also didn't make sense. I'm not disobeying my parents and trying in school. I don't get why am I being punished? But it kind of came to also understanding at that time the reality of our own humanity's sin and the reality that salvation is a gift. And so for us to say that anything in our life is not fair, it's just a complete misunderstanding of the reality of God's grace in our lives. And so kind of switched my mindset from that's not fair to, oh my goodness, take whatever you want from my life. Your grace is so much more. I don't need anything in this world. So that was a huge mind shift time for me where, again, even after that, it's not like my actions were really changing so much. I still listen to my parents, but my heart posture behind it just changed so much. And so now, throughout high school and now I just am looking to continue the ministry, continue trying to find, what he has planned, how he wants to use my story or my skills or gifts or whatever. And I'm part of the spiritual formation team here, which I love. That it's kind of the whole idea of spiritual formation is we're constantly being formed by something. And so spiritual formation looks to implement different rhythms into our lives that form us better in the image of Jesus. And that kind of hands-on approach really just works well in my brain. And so using things like that the Lord has given me different ways to lead is just kind of stuff I'm loving more and more every day.
Yeah, I think I was just talking to the friend too, and even my brother, he's pursuing a career in orthopedic surgery because he had all kinds of injuries when he was a kid. And so we were just talking on a podcast about I was fixed or had this, person who helped me out, and I want to be the person who helps them out. And it's by the gifts and even sometimes the hardship that the Lord gives us that then leads us into what we're good at or that we, thrive in. No one can help someone who's in a place more than you who's been through that. And it's especially important to have people who are okay, I got through this really hard thing, and it's not because of anything I did, but because of the way that the Lord guided me through that. And so I think we need more of that, obviously, of people that recognize that it's not our own strength, and that it is a gift, even though we have that story. And I think it's obviously easier to look back on than in the moment. In the moment, it's don't understand why this is going on, but oftentimes when we look back, you can clearly see the Lord's faithfulness, which is so, so cool. So now I want to know how your faith has grown a little bit as you found community, specifically at GCU, with pickleball or even just in spiritual formation with, different people and different groups. How has your faith deepened through those relationships?
Yeah, I'd say for me, first semester of college was pretty rough. I mean, I know it's can be rough for a lot of students. Just going out of state, not knowing really anyone here at GCU except for a couple like junior seniors who like, they're gonna be total friends with this freshman. I mean, that's fair, but so didn't really have a whole lot of a community like first semester, and so that was definitely tough. Learning to like just rely, on God was hard. Just not having the community I had at home, knowing pretty much everyone. Coming from a small town, I know like all the people in high school, people in youth group, the church. Like I knew a lot of people, and then coming here, really knowing no one, and so that was really tough. And so it was a lot of fun, and just getting to meet new people, whether that was through pickleball, whether that was in class, doing different events here on campus. And so I get to see how like God provided a community, and it wasn't immediate, but through patience and just getting to meet more and more people, I got to meet just people who wanted the best for me and wanted to see me grow spiritually. And so that has really just fostered growth for me and just getting those people. So.
Yeah, I would agree. My community was not immediate. After first semester, felt like I had friends, but no way that I was like incredibly tight with. And then towards second semester, started getting a little bit closer to Parker and some different friends on the pickleball team, which was good for sure. Started finding different pockets of faithful communities and other believers I knew who I could have good conversations with. And so I think towards the end of second semester last year, kind of had a mental image of like, I think I know who I'm coming back to. And so that was encouraging, made me want to come back and keep building that community. And then I think this year through spiritual formation and through church and through the gathering and sanctuary and chapel and things like that, we've gotten to know a lot of people. And I love when I walk to class and I can say hi to like multiple people on one little trip. That's such a blessing, and that's something that in adulthood probably won't be very common. You'll see your coworkers and your family and maybe friends every once in a while, but you're not going to be waving people on your drive to work. So I just really want to take advantage of that. But yeah, I'm very thankful for the way my community has grown. And I think we share some of that community, so that's been a blessing. And through spiritual formation and getting to know other people who just want to become more like Jesus. So it's been a huge blessing here.
I think it's so cool that like those different clubs or opportunities provide such a good community. And then especially at GCU, what I've noticed, like, not that you're gonna like everyone that you're in these groups with or whatever are going to like be pursuing a relationship with the Lord, but there is a lot of opportunities like with the spiritual formation or like church groups or whatever that you can find so many people that are like-minded. And that doesn't mean that you're automatically just gonna have like this awesome community, because I think that's a like very common thought is like, oh, there's tons of people and like things to do, you're just gonna find your best friends immediately. But it is a bit overwhelming. However, like I think it's also in like other sports, it's really common to like when you go into college and you're in this group, it's automatically like people that you know, which is a good start. Like in college when it's like your first, experience with new people, to like have those spaces where maybe it's a little easier to connect with people. So now I want to talk more just about like sports, exercise, nutrition, and how your faith impacts the way that you approach those things at any point in your life, like now, how you have in the past, etc.
Yeah, I'd say just one aspect of that, like maybe with the nutrition side. Sometimes I enjoy like being able to like give something up in my life, and just realizing that like God provides my needs, and so like there's some things that I can go without, for a month or a week or however long it is, and so a lot of the times I'll like make that sugar, and that's just something that's simple, but also just shows that like I can go without having like an extra ice cream or two or like a Jamba Juice every week, something simple like that, which ends up really just benefiting my health as well. But I would just say like with sports in general, just having a mindset that the people I'm playing with are real people, and they are also children of God. And so just treating them with the respect that they deserve has just been big for me.
I would agree. I think in nutrition and kind of like wellness as a whole, just having the idea of health, and in high school you don't care. I didn't really care. But now thinking about like longevity and what am I doing that's going to help or hurt my health in the future is more of an important thought for the sake of, like I don't know what God has planned for my life, and whatever He's planned is fantastic. But if I'm going to be respectful to those plans, it would follow that I should be investing in my own health, and I should be trying to take care of the body He's given me, and that includes nutrition, that includes exercise, and then the most important thing would be to spread the light and share the love. And I love how you say like they're real people, because sometimes in the competitive nature it's just go win, and that's not the best way to share the gospel, I would say. So being intentional about who you're spending your time with in sport and in exercise and why you're there, I think makes it a lot easier to show up, a lot easier to be invested, and then those reasons for investment are gonna last a lot longer, be a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned like both of you touching on that, because I feel like I grew up in a small town and the culture around sports was like cutthroat. So we'd play like our rival team and like we were expected to just hate them. And like I remember after the game, like I was friends with some of the people on other teams, and I'm like, I mean, it's great to be competitive and everything, like take your sport seriously, but I was like, this is just so negative. Like I want to hang out with like these people and like, be competitive in the game, but like also love on them. Cause again, I was friends with some, and then regardless if you're friends or not, like we're still called to love our neighbor. And then also just like taking care of yourself. Like the best way to be able to spread the gospel is to be like the best that you can be. Like, and a lot of that is your health. Like if you are just feeling like garbage all the time, like how are you going to go do anything that like the Lord has called you to do? It's important to have that balance for sure. So I'm interested in like specifically the GCU, because I know like Christian school. What's your experience with like playing a sport and being like at a Christian school? And do you think it's different, like having that faith if you were in like a more of a secular school? Would it be different in how you like are able to talk to people? Maybe like there's less believers in a different place, like you feel like there's no one to really minister to in that way, or like what's your experience?
I would say just like people side, like any like large university you go to, you're gonna have people from like both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yes, GCU is like a private Christian school, and like that's big here. It doesn't mean like all the people are Christian and they're serious about like their faith and stuff. And like I can say we both could say like we've seen that, we've experienced that. We've talked to people who have just totally different views, and GCU is great because it's cheap, and so that means that it attracts a lot of different people, and so there definitely is that like ministry opportunity, just in sports, and just the people we interact with, and just being able to like show them love, and if those opportunities do arise, be able to tell them truth, but lead with grace. And I know you have like some experience just like being on the pickleball club, the things we've been able to do. Like we are able to pray, which is a fun thing that we get to do. That not all schools and sports can say they can do that, freely and not have to worry about it. But if you want to take it away.
Yeah, I appreciated in high school seeing coaches make an effort to lead devotionals and pray together, and I acknowledge it can be tough to really like focus on that 5 minutes for a state championship game. Like that can be tough for a coach, but they did their best. It was something that whether they, I don't know if someone told them to or not, but it genuinely seemed like they cared, like they wanted to invest in that. And so I think I appreciated seeing that even amidst the competitive nature at times. And so coming into club pickleball, freshman year was more just get the bearings, meet some people, love on them. And then, this year we started doing devotionals before practice, and it's just once a week. It's nothing crazy. Our president kind of organizes who does it each week, and so that means we get to hear from a lot of different people. And we know for a fact not everyone on the team is a believer, and so we don't want to shove it, Christianity in their face, and we don't want to tell them like you're just you're the word, like nothing like that. But, but giving them an opportunity to just like hear the truth and hear some good news. And I think even in some questions we've had people come up with after a devotional or conversations that have been started, those keep going up week after week. And we don't need to, necessarily be the people who see that through all the way, but to plant a seed and to water it a little bit here and there and let the Holy Spirit grow it is really what we're called to do. And so on pickleball, I think, a game is like 15 minutes on average, and then you might have to wait 5 minutes to play another one. And those 5 minutes are a great time to talk, and you got to put on your shoes and off your shoes. You got to get water. All those things are great opportunities to just interact. And taking those opportunities, taking advantage of those opportunities, I think we've seen some fruit, and it's just been a blessing, like to share the gospel, but just to get to know, like you said, real people. They're not just, I don't know, pickleball players or whatever. They're real people with real stories and real interests, and I think it's a blessing and a real enjoyment to get to know them and then share the gospel.
Yeah, and it's such a unique position to like athletes have, because again, like especially like at the college level, like I know when I played basketball, like I was spending 4, 5, 6 hours a day with these people sometimes, like with practice and weights and like recovery and everything. And so you have such an opportunity, again, not just to like try to shove it down their throats, but to build those relationships and then get to, because a lot of times too, like you'll talk to people, you create relationships and everything, and then they'll notice that there's something different about the way that you live, like the way that you go to church every Sunday, and like it's not a chore, like you choose to do it, or like reading your Bible, or like prayer, like those kind of things are not something that you typically would just like do for fun. Like it is a commitment. And so I think it's the best feeling when someone notices that it's different, and it's like this open door to just share what makes you live that way. But yeah, I think like just the way that things are set up, and like with how much time you spend with people, like sports are such a good way to build those relationships and be a role model, not only for your team but like people around you too. However, can become an idol, so we'll move into that. So can you just talk a little bit about how sports may become an idol in people's lives, if you've experienced that at all?
Yeah, for me, I would say definitely, like, just from personal experience, like, comes down to like how much of a priority like the sport has in my life, and so once it just gets to that point where it's impacting like my emotions, it's impacting like my health, or any various other avenue in a negative way, like that's when it's stepped too far, and so just being careful about how much you're letting like sports kind of influence you, I think is another like big one. Like if I'm not doing as well, or if I'm losing games and I'm taking that out on other people, like that's a point where you can kind of need to reassess and maybe say like, this is a sport, I want to have fun, but I got to be careful of how much like value I'm putting in the sport, and what like the sport is telling about me as a person, like where my value comes from, because I know that my value is not coming from pickleball. It's not coming from playing sports and being successful. It comes from being a child of God and who God says I am. And so, yeah, just for me, like being careful, like with how much I'm letting that sport influence just the way I interact with people, and being able to still show people love and kindness and gentleness. So,
yeah.
I would say sports has been an idol at points in my life, maybe points where just the competitive nature took over, or the desire to win or whatever just gets too high on that priority list. But I think it's an intentionality, it's a mindset. And I think the more you grow in your faith and the more you're consciously and actively reminding yourself where God needs to be on that list, the easier it becomes to choose that perspective, the easier it becomes to remind yourself like that's an idol, it's not worth it, it's not going to fulfill you. And I think it's easier to kind of, after the fact, look back and decide, was this being an idol or not? And so it can be tough to reflect honestly on our own lives, but I think if you can look back honestly and then decide to make a change, I think that's life, is acknowledging where we fell short and then making intentional changes for the glory of God. And so I think reflection has just been a huge point of emphasis for me, because in the moment it's difficult to be honest with yourself in in any moment usually. So like reflection has been huge, and then that's helped me, the next practice, be intentional about switching thought patterns or replacing thought patterns with like a breath prayer or different like things that you can do to just keep yourself in the right headspace.
Yeah, kind of to go off with the just reflecting, like when you read the Old Testament, all the Israelites and just the nations around them, the idols were like physical objects, so it's easy for us to look back on that and be like, oh, that would have been easy just to get rid of those idols, but and like I don't have any idols today, but all of our idols today are like kind of like these ideas, concepts, and now like even sports. And so being able to like have that time to reflect on like where is sports on my totem pole of priorities, and is it really something I need to be valuing this high right now? Like, how is that impacting just my relationship with God and other people?
Yeah, because anything can become an idol if you let it take over your life and take precedence over like your relationship with God, which like I feel like, obviously like you said, the idols, like people think, oh, food isn't an idol for me, but it's like, where does it fall on the priority list? It's a lot deeper than just like getting rid of a physical object that, you worship or whatever. Like in a lot of ways, like we worship the things that are important to us, whether that be your sport or like some people like eating healthy, very good, but like if you make it too much of a priority, it can also take over your entire life. So what do you think are like the most negative like consequences from like making sports or nutrition or whatever an idol, like specifically in your relationship with God? Like how does that actually impact?
Again, negatively impacts like the people you're playing the sport with. Like it's really easy when it does become an idol to let it like influence your emotions to a just really negative point where either you're taking out your anger on those around you, or you kind of treat them with contempt, and you're not putting their best interests first, and you're really just kind of letting yourself, self-control, and it's just like anyone in the vicinity is just going to get like lashed out upon. And so those are, I'd say, like the biggest things that I've seen, and like I'm trying to be careful of for myself. Or even just like not like lashing out anger, but like kind of like concealing and like not really wanting to engage with people around you can also kind of be the opposite side of like the anger. And that's definitely something that I feel that I do more than like lashing out anger. It's kind of just like gaining myself, not wanting to like engage with anyone, and just kind of pushing everyone away and inside.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I don't necessarily lash out, but I might like retreat in a little bit. And I think one of the most dangerous things that could come from idolatry in sport is if that's what you're concerned about, if that's what you're there for, if that's where your focus lies, you might do something you regret. And that is something, for you to reconcile with the Lord. But for somebody else who's not a believer to see that and then say, I guess that's how a Christian acts, that's dangerous. And that is a complete misuse of of every aspect of our life, for somebody to look at me and say like, well, Isaiah's like cussing up a storm because he missed a shot, and Isaiah is throwing stuff around. I guess that's what it means to be a Christian. Then I have completely misrepresented the love of Christ. And to me, like that's just, one of the more dangerous aspects of idolatry. So
yeah, that's so good, because again, like you are a role model in a sense to a lot of people, good or bad, like depending on the way that you carry yourself. You can have a really big impact, which is a really great thing, but also can be a very bad thing if you don't control it. So what are some ways that you personally have learned to prevent this? Like practices, things that maybe like kind of ground you, and like you said, kind of some self-reflection. What does that look like to look back and see how you've been idolizing something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say like with the self-reflection, just being able to talk it over with someone. Like I know we've had some conversations about just like how practice went, like kind of looking back. And it's kind of hard, like in the moment, especially to, check yourself. And so like when you like reflect, like being able to recognize where you like overstepped and like realize that it was becoming too much of like a hindrance for you to love and care for people. And so that's definitely one thing. Just being in the Word, getting the truth just in daily, being able to know like this is how God wants me to act. This is how God wants me to treat other people. And this is His priority in my life. Is number one, first and foremost. And just knowing that like sports and idols really aren't going to satisfy me, like is a big one. And so just being able to recognize that and then seeing sports in a new way where they're just fun and they're enjoyable.
So spiritual formation has really helped me with this, just like knowing different practices, having different things in my toolbox to apply. So one of the things I do, which I kind of mentioned, is called breath prayer. And the idea of breath prayer is you say something that's true about God during an inhale, and then you say something that's true because of that on an exhale. And so, like if I'm getting distracted in a game, if I'm like acknowledging like, oh shoot, my mind's not in the right place, one I've done before is like on my inhale, I'll say, God, I know you're faithful, so I can come back. Just like I can reset. Another one I've heard is from Psalm 64, I think is where it's based out of, somewhere around there. But it's God is my fortress, whom shall I fear? And just the idea that like these things in this moment, God is my fortress. These can't attack me. These can't take my peace. So that's been helpful. Memorization was a huge one. Just throw a verse down. Boom. Jesus is tempted. He throws a verse down. When we're tempted, we might as well throw a verse down. So that's been helpful, memorization. And then also this type of prayer called prayer of examine, which is just a method of looking back at your day and acknowledging where was God, what like literally happened in my day, where did I fall short, and then asking God for renewal for the next day. And so looking at an entire day, if pickleball's in there, I'll address pickleball. But even just doing like a mini prayer of examine over pickleball, I can look like where was God, where did I fall short, and then like how can I ask for renewal for the next time. And so methods like those have just helped me with reflection, and then also helped me in the moment try to learn how to just flip a switch and take a deep breath, start over, change my energy.
Yeah, that's huge. Both of those. Like, I think the community aspect is really good, like having people to hold you accountable. I never really had that before I was in college. Like, and honestly, not even until I was here. Like, I didn't have, even on my basketball team, like, no one went to church with me. Like, it was completely my own thing. And then I came here and met, like, two of my very best friends who are now my roommates. And I was like, dang, like, this is what it's like to have people hold you accountable. And it's scary to, like, let people, kind of criticize, I mean, not necessarily criticize, but just encourage in, a helpful way. But I mean, I think that's huge with any struggle that you're having, like letting people that you trust, that know you and care about you and want you to be the best that you can be, and, really care about your relationship with the Lord too is good. And then like those practices, like practical things are like the best to fall back on, because when you're emotionally dysregulated, like you can't come up with things. Like you've got to have stuff that you just fall back on automatically. So this has all been awesome. Do you guys have anything else that you want to add before I end with our last question? Anything that we didn't touch that you want people to know? If there's not, no stress.
I think the only thing about like our mindset, or what I've really appreciated about playing with Parker, is even when it is like a tournament day or playing a little bit more competitive, I just really appreciate that we can like joke while we play. We at nationals we have a few pictures of us playing, and like 1 every 3 pictures is in the middle of the game, and we're laughing, like we're smiling, we're doing something goofy. And so I think humor has also just been a blessing from the Lord. It's not like we're being, it's not like we're wasting the opportunity, but I think humor has been a way to kind of also just regulate the reminder, like this is a game, it should be fun. It could be competitive, but there's no reason to be so competitive that you look back and you're just mad in all your pictures and stuff like that.
That's really cool. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, that's been something I've really enjoyed. It's made it a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun, just being able to do it with people you enjoy, and then being able to just laugh at it, even if we make a mistake. Like being able to laugh it off is like helps me like move on to the next thing. But yeah, we've been able to do some fun stuff like in the club. Like we've been able to go to nationals, which was in Georgia, in Atlanta, and that was a blast. On the weekend, just got to watch a lot of good pickleball, got to play some pickleball. Didn't do quite as well as we might have wanted to, but we had fun still, and so that made it worthwhile,
That's the main thing.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll do maybe another one this semester. There's a couple tournaments that I think they're thinking about planning, so try to get to at least maybe one or two. We'll see.
Yeah.
So.
Well, maybe I'll see you out on the court. I'm not very good, but I want to get better, so we'll see. So the last question, everyone gets to answer this on the podcast. What does it look like for you to live authentically?
Yeah, I would say just like in sports, like kind of a lot of stuff we talked about, like knowing, where is pickleball on my priority list? What are my motivations to wanting to play? If I can live up to those motivations and live into them, like that's going to make it so much more real for me. And like, I'll have a purpose and a reason why, I'm playing and wanting to play. And just how that impacts like the way I act on the court and really just in my day-to-day life. If you have that purpose and that reason why you're doing it and you're living up to that, like that for me is living authentically.
I would say my most authentic self comes when I'm in my most like humble moments. And an important distinction I learned last semester, I think, or maybe even last year, was that true humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So you're not just dogging on yourself, you're not just tearing yourself down, but you're just not concerned with yourself. Like the quantity of time that you're thinking about yourself is just less. You're focused on your relationship with God more, you're focused on your relationship with others more. And so I think the more that I'm thinking about others, the more authentic my heart for the Lord is going to be, and therefore the more authentic my heart for others is going to be.
Yeah, those are all so good. Well, thank you guys for doing this. It's been super fun.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. It's nice to have a little different like sports and different backgrounds, and like I've never talked to a pickleball player yet, so this is sweet. So thank you so much. I'm excited for people to get to hear. Thank you so much for listening to Authentic Performance, the podcast. We would love to hear what you found valuable in this episode, so send us a DM on Instagram at Authentic Performance or leave us a review on whatever platform you enjoy most. We want to thank you for your continued support of this project. It truly means the world. We also want to invite you to be a part of the Authentic Performance fam, so follow us on socials and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. For more information about how to get involved or to see how we're supporting athletes, go to theauthenticperformance.com. Finally, let us know what you want to hear on the podcast and who you want to hear from. We want to give you the best possible resources and support, and your feedback helps us do that. In the meantime, think about how you can live authentically. See you next time.